What's up, everyone? Thunderbolts finally hit the theaters, and it's time for our spoiler-filled review of the movie. Let's check out all the cool stuff that went down: Sentry, Void, all the highlights that people are saying could be the best Marvel movie in years. But is it really? Let's find out. So, guys, Marvel is back on top with Thunderbolts. The story in the Marvel Cinematic Universe is moving forward again. Contessa Valentina is one of the villains along with Void, but they aren't just your typical bad guys. They're a bit more complex, like in real life. To Valentina, it's like there are bad people and then there are worse people. In her mind, everything she does, even if it's shady, is justified by some greater good. You know, kinda like Lex Luthor vibes. She thinks the world can't rely on the Avengers, and she wants to be in control, so she decides to create a hero who's easily manipulated and stronger than all the other heroes. That way, she won't get caught or face political heat. This is basically what Norman Osborn did during the Dark Reign era. He controlled Sentry, so everyone had to bow down to him, even Dr. Doom. Anyone who dared to challenge Osborn, he would just send Void after them. There's a comic where the Punisher is trying to take out Norman Osborn with a sniper rifle from across the city, and Sentry pops out of nowhere, catches the bullet right before it hits Norman. That's Valentina's dream, having an omnipotent guard dog protecting her from everything and everyone. This Valentina is a bit different from the comics. She's more political, a public figure, while in the comics, she's from the original Nick Fury stories, a super spy who rivals Nick Fury himself. She's a mysterious character with a heavy espionage vibe, but in the movie, she's more about politics, concerned with covering her tracks from the Ox, the company she used for human test subjects to develop the Project Sentry. In the comics, the Contessa who created Ox wasn't really a Contessa, she was a robotic clone of herself. Nick Fury invented the tech with S.H.I.E.L.D., so it's an homage to his comics. That might explain why Valentina seems so secure in this film. Valentina always plays her cards right. Even after her assassins did the dirty work of burning all the tracks from Ox, and Yelena mentioned at the end that Valentina is now in their hands, you can bet there's more coming from Valentina Allegra in future films, with tech, serums, and lab rats. If the MCU is indicating that something like the Sentry and Void could have been lab created, then Valentina could definitely pull off anything. Speaking of Bob, Sentry, and Void, Thunderbolts really nailed Robert Reynolds in his human form, because in the comics, we only saw more of Bob in his origin story, which shows him living a normal life after erasing everyone's memory of him. Everyone forgot he was Sentry. He even wiped the memory of himself regarding everything related to Sentry. That was the only way to make Void cease to exist. Bit by bit, he and the other heroes start to remember, and Bob transforms back into Sentry. A towel from the clothesline stuck on his back with a clothespin turns into a cape until he becomes the full-on Sentry with the costume and everything. He has dissociative identities with omnipotent powers that are constantly at odds within him and outside of him. It's complicated, but I think the movie showcased Bob's confusion organically. As you watch the film, you know there's a mystery there, a bit of unpredictability, because Bob could go any direction, but you can still grasp what's happening amid all the chaos. He's a fantastic character even though he's an ordinary guy. That's one of the movie's greatest achievements, making Bob a character that everyone loves and roots for, even if he's not Sentry all the time. In this film, they built an interesting backstory for Bob, with many comic elements not often explored, like his father. The fact that he was a junkie when he was younger explains why he takes the serum out of nowhere. He was looking to get high. Even the name of Valentina's organization, Ox. Oxy, references drugs. It's a way for Bob to escape social problems, family issues, and psychological struggles he faced throughout his life. And how Void emerged from all those traumas he was internalizing and rejecting until that gaping hole, that emptiness, that void, appeared within him. The movie uses this dark side of Bob as a metaphor for depression, negative feelings, and poorly managed psychological issues. These are elements present in the comics, just not with the level of focus that the film gave them. He's a super complex character, full of layers. This film was able to demonstrate the complexity Sentry has in the comics beautifully. They even portrayed Sentry's power level well. They respected how he's presented in the comics. Literally, in Sentry's first comic, it's explained that his power is limitless. There's nothing he can't do. He conquered time and space. He's omnipotent, immortal. His body is just a shell. Flesh means nothing to his powers. Nothing. In the movie, Bob even resurrects twice, once when he's gunned down by Valentina's squad at the movie's start, sacrificing himself for the rest of the team to escape, and another time when Valentina's assistant has a bomb implanted in Sentry's head, and he comes back as Void. In the comics, he's even come back after wiping himself from existence. He literally returned out of nowhere, and that's happened multiple times. Immortality is one of his most significant powers. In the comics, Sentry's power is reality manipulation. He has all the powers of every hero, and this reality manipulation justifies the existence of his absurd powers. There are comics that even cite Sentry's powers as the biblical evil, something linked to God himself, like the God of the Bible. Void turns everyone into shadows, and then Bob brings everyone back to how they were. A lot of folks compare Sentry to Superman, but you can't really compare this character to Superman. On one side, you've got a Kryptonian, an alien who absorbs solar energy to become stronger, and on the other side, you have the most powerful being in the entire Marvel Universe, and everything he desires bends reality to fulfill it. That's why in the film, Valentina says Sentry is more powerful than all the Avengers combined, and Sentry turns to her and says he's a god. Several times, Sentry or Void faced all the Avengers together and wiped the floor with them like they were nothing. Void is a threat to all of Earth's heroes combined, and he still takes down Thor, who's a god. There's only one guy who can defeat Void, and that's Bob himself. This happens at the end of the Siege Saga, where Bob manages to take control of Void's body, weaken him, and asks to be killed. It also happens at the end of World War Hulk. Bob was trying to contain Sentry internally because he was out of control. Bob is always fighting internally to defeat himself, which is basically what happens at the end of the film. The final battle is Bob against Void. And Bob seems to be winning, but the struggle between Bob and Void isn't a physical fight, it's an emotional one. Bob is surrendering to rage, being carried away by the negative feelings that Void represents. So, he's making Void grow. The final message is that you don't have to fight your demons alone. Bob is embraced by Yelena and the rest of the Thunderbolts. And in the end, the movie is about that, filling each other's voids. It's about how we often feel alone, drowning in our own problems, and many times, all we need is a hug, someone to lend a hand, and give us a positive purpose in life, something worth fighting for, something worth waking up for, you know? That's what happened. So, man, from start to finish, Bob is written masterfully in this movie. The idea of having the Thunderbolts enter the darkness, into the realm of memories where everyone's infinite negativity connects is like a horror movie, all based on the comics. In one of the fights where Void was battling all the Marvel hero teams together in the comics, Emma Frost was with Bob inside his mind, trying to find a way to contain Void through his memories. If Bob doesn't help much, things usually end up pretty ugly for telepaths. No matter how powerful they are, like Emma Frost or Professor X. Thunderbolts in the comics have always been a team without a super-defined concept. Each incarnation of this team changes its members and purpose entirely. Most of the time, Marvel Comics just takes the name Thunderbolts and creates a new team with a fresh story. That's why none of the characters in this movie had been members of the Thunderbolts in the comics before the film was announced. The title Thunderbolts itself gives Marvel space to create something different with this team. They opted for a different approach, but it does relate to the Thunderbolts from the comics because it's a title usually led by villains or anti-heroes or some form of redemption. And this movie is about that: assassins, military, operatives, people who have committed atrocities but are haunted by those acts. People who want to be better, but are flawed. We've got Yelena dealing with depression. She lost her sister and grew up as a child assassin in the Red Room. Alexei has serious rejection issues. He didn't reach out to Yelena because he thought she rejected him as a father. So he just sat around dirty at home watching his glory days on TV back in the Soviet Union. He wanted to work for the Contessa like the others, to be useful, have some value, like a midlife crisis. He wants to feel relevant, but feels like no one wants him. Even though he covers all this up with charm, excitement, and jokes, all that character drama is there in the film, implicitly. Ava, who is Ghost, is in a pretty similar situation to Yelena's. John Walker, since Falcon and the Winter Soldier, is a tough guy in action. But he has serious social problems and needs to assert himself all the time, saying he's Captain America, that he earned medals, that he has a family, or that he's a hero. He's got some serious self-image issues. He lies, often, to maintain his image. His personality is the complete opposite of Steve Rogers. Then there's Buck, the only character among the Thunderbolts who participated in Infinity War, who was a hero in the old Marvel. So he comes into this movie with some hero experience. He's already gone through his transition journey, while the others are just starting theirs. So this film respects Buck's previous arc. That's a big win for the movie. Everything the Thunderbolts members are dealing with now was Buck's arc in Falcon and the Winter Soldier. You can really feel there's continuity. This is a movie that takes the lore of the cinematic universe seriously, really different from the other films in Phase 4 and 5 that just ignored character growth and the events of the series. You see a genuine concern for continuity and an intent to tell a chapter in the MCU story, a real effort to evolve these characters' narratives. And it's all done in a super nice and fun way. Red Guardian is hilarious as hell. Ghost has an awesome look and powers. John Walker keeps your attention every time he's on screen. Winter Soldier, besides being tough as nails in action, carries the story with more responsibility. He's a guy who now has political connections and more hierarchical power. And Yelena, the story of this movie is basically about her and Bob. Yelena is the protagonist. It's really a storytelling of her emotional psychological condition and how that ties into the theme of Void. The actors did a fantastic job. There's a dramatic weight that isn't common in MCU films. Plus, it's a pretty heavy movie in terms of deaths. Even the trainer got killed by Ghost. There's a certain casualness in how these killer characters handle death, but at the same time, the deaths are really raw, cold, and heavy, giving off a sense of chill and indifference. The movie ends with the Contessa holding a press conference trap, and when the Thunderbolts show up to go after her, she announces them as the new Avengers. So, the asterisk in the movie's title was there because they wouldn't exactly be the Thunderbolts of the MCU. The film wraps up with the title changing to New Avengers. Thunderbolts was basically a soccer team that Yelena was part of when she was a kid. It was a team of excited losers, so it's a funny nod in the script that convinces you these characters had lives off-screen. The New Avengers in the comics emerged because the Avengers had split up, and this random group of heroes comes together to stop a breakout of supervillains from prison. And Bob was in prison, punishing himself because he killed his own wife. The New Avengers is where Sentry is introduced to the Avengers in the comics. It's a team of more urban heroes. So, this selection of urban members forming the New Avengers during a time when the Avengers disbanded, with Sentry being introduced, totally makes sense and fits with the MCU timeline and the references they're bringing from the comics. And if you caught the post-credit scene, you know the Fantastic Four is coming. In fact, the Thing is one of the New Avengers in the comics. There's also the Wolverine, who should be in Avengers Doomsday. So there might be room for more members. So, folks, I just want to say it's totally worth checking out Thunderbolts in theaters. I know this video had spoilers, but I understand a lot of people watch spoiler reviews to see if it's really worth it, and I'm telling you, it definitely is. Thunderbolts isn't the best Marvel movie, nor the best superhero film, but it's a good film, and you should definitely see it. Go ahead, no worries. I'd say it's one of the best Marvel movies in recent years. It's not better than Guardians of the Galaxy 3, but I think Thunderbolts has something different that most of the recent Marvel films lack, except for Guardians, of course. Now, I want to hear from you. Did you catch Thunderbolts in theaters? Or are you planning to? Did you enjoy the movie? Do you think this is one of the best Marvel movies in recent years? Hit me up in the comments, leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on those notifications. There's still a ton of superhero news coming this year, and I'll bring it all to you, so make sure you're subscribed to stay in the loop. Consider supporting our channel through the thanks button next to the subscribe button. Doing that helps the channel grow even more, in both quality and quantity of videos. You'll be rewarded with even more content to binge and keep up with everything going on in comics, films, series, animations, everything superhero related. Thanks a ton for all the support. For you Marvel fans, I picked out these 2 awesome video recommendations for you to check out. Once again, thank you so much, and see you soon.